Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 11.
Chapter 11!
Chapter 11, Droplets. 3 of 16 ruled, but now the Broken One reigns. Collected Chachanan, 1173, 84 seconds pre-death. Subject, a cut purse with the wasting sickness of partial Iriali descent. So,
Interesting.
Who is the Broken One?
3 of 16. Now we got another number, because we have 10 heralds.
I think this had something to do with the Radiance.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Who's the Broken One?
Yeah.
But why is this person thinking about that now? It's a cut purse, but what is Iriali descent? Can you look at your map?
Yeah, what am I looking for in the map?
Something that's Iriel-ish. Because if there's some sort of descent, like say there's that Iriali is like some sort of culture that knows stuff about the Radiance.
I see a place called Erie. It's northeast-ish of Shinovar.
Yeah, so we would need to know a bit more about what their culture is about to understand why he would be thinking that thought before he dies. Because, otherwise, if we didn't have the, all the other contextual clues, we could be like, okay, so there were 16 cut purses, and then there were 3 of them ruled, and the Broken One ruled the cut purses. Like, it doesn't make sense for him to be thinking about that. To be thinking about something as grand as the 16 and whatever, and he's got the wasting sickness. So I suppose you start thinking about more deep things when you're dying.
Yeah.
But that sounds really like prophetic and...
Maybe it's just politics. 3 of 16 ruled, and someone, the Broken One, takes control.
Yeah, then if that is happening around now, as in around, because you're saying 1173.
Oh, yes, that's right. And it sounds
What's
like
happening?
the Radiants have long been gone. So that does throw a spanner in the works for my theories. Interesting. The high storm eventually subsided. It was the dusk of the day the boy had died, the day Syl had left him. Kaladin slid on his sandals, the same ones he'd taken from the leathery-faced man on that first day, and stood up. He walked through the crowded barrack. There were no beds, just one thin blanket per bridgeman. One had to choose whether to use it for cushioning or warmth. You could freeze or you could ache. Those were a bridgeman's options, though several of the bridgemen had found a third use for the blankets. They wrapped them around their heads as if to block out sight, sound, and smell, to hide from the world. I will say that was a really well-woven way of letting us know post-flashback where we were in the timeline. Really well done.
Yeah, smooth transition. We're back.
Yeah, right where we left off, essentially.
In hopeless land, in damnation.
Yeah. The world would find them anyway. It was good at these kinds of games. Rain fell in sheets outside, the wind still stiff. Flashes lit the western horizon where the center of the storm flew onward. This was an hour or so before the riddance, and was as early as one would want to go out in a high storm. Well, one never wanted to go out in a high storm, but this was about as early as it was safe to go out. The lightning had passed, the winds were manageable. Note about winds, and Syl gone.
Yeah, but yeah, she's gone before this. Well, it was raining when that happened, when she left. Can she get blown away and lost?
I don't think necessarily that Windspren are out there controlling the high storms or anything like that. Just interesting.
But she's related. Maybe she becomes more powerful.
Oh, that would be neat. See, my presumption was she's going to revert to being a normal precognizant wind sprint if she gets too far away from Kaladin.
Yeah. She just becomes ordinary.
Yeah. He passed through the dim lumberyard, hunched against the wind. Branches lay scattered about like bones in a white spine's lair. White spine, new term.
Mm.
Leaves were plastered by rainwater to the rough sides of barracks. Kaladin splashed through puddles that chilled and numbed his feet. That felt good. They were still sore from the bridge run earlier. Okay, but that can't be good for you, can it?
Yeah, well, nothing's good for him at this point. But
Yeah,
I'm look at him having a good feeling. Okay, that's great. Hold on to that.
Yeah, wherever you can get it.
Mm.
Waves of icy rain blew across him, wetting his hair, dripping down his face and into his scruffy beard. He hated having a beard, particularly the way the whiskers itched at the corners of his mouth. Amen to that, Kaladin. Beards were like axehound pups. Boys dreamed of the day they'd get one, never realizing how annoying they could be.
That's a bit of a light-hearted thought. Thank you. Keep going. Don't die.
Out for a stroll, your lordship? A voice said. Kaladin looked up to find Gaz huddled in a nearby hollow between two of the barracks. Why was he out in the rain? Ooh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is Gaz going to be like, you're in charge of Bridge 4 from now on? Or is he going to be like, I'm going to make your life hell right now?
That's the second. I'm with that one. I feel like this positive turn for Kaladin is very far in the future.
Yeah, but how can it get much worse than it's already been?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm starting to. Maybe it's just thinking that he will go to the honor chasm considering dying, and then something will make him change his mind.
Mm.
That will be his proper rock bottom.
Gotcha. And then someone will shove him over, and he will be lifted by the wind. Still will save him.
Yes.
Ah. Gaz had fastened a small metal basket on the leeward wall of one of the barracks, and a soft glowing light came from within. He left his spheres out in the storm, then had come out early to retrieve them. It was a risk. Even a sheltered basket could get torn free. Some people believed that the shades of the lost radiance haunted the storms, stealing spheres. Perhaps that was true, but during his time in the army, Kaladin had known more than one man who had been wounded sneaking around during full storm looking for spheres. No doubt the superstition was due to more worldly thieves. There were safer ways to infuse spheres. Money changers would exchange done spheres for infused ones, or you could pay them to infuse yours in one of their safely guarded nests. Okay, so that's cool. So the high storms charge spheres.
Yep.
I love that. That is cool.
Mm-hmm. And Radiants, hello, are interested in spheres. They can take that charge themselves. Not that they would need to.
When you say Radiance, do you mean like Seth's storm sorcery?
Yes.
Stuff. Yeah.
I'm still stuck on that because literally the word radiant was used. Like radiance, radiating was used there.
Yeah. The lashings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are you doing? Gaz demanded. The short, one-eyed man clutched the basket to his chest. I'll have you strung up if you've stolen anyone's spheres. Kaladin turned away from him. Storm you! I'll have you strung up anyway. Don't think you can run away. There's still sentries, you! I'm going to the honor chasm.
Oh, shit!
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
If this is honor chasm.
Oh, no. Wait.
I was like, oh, it's his rock bottoms, you know. It's, ooh! I wonder if this is it. Maybe we are reading honor chasm right now. Okay,
but also, Kaladin essentially just said he's going to go unalive himself.
Yep. But I'm yes, I understand that that's high stakes, but I'm like, something's going to stop it.
Well, I should hope so, but...
Yeah. I mean, what do we do without Kaladin? Like, gosh,
wow.
If he dies, no. Kaladin Spring, that's the story that we go after. Just, no.
I'm going to the honor chasm, Kaladin said quietly. His voice would barely be audible over the storm. Gaz shut up. The honor chasm. He lowered his metal basket and made no further objections. There was a certain deference given to men who took that road. Kaladin continued to cross the courtyard. "Lordling!" Gaz called. Kaladin turned. "Leave the sandals and vest. I don't want to have to send someone down to fetch them."
Yes, that's hey, just by the way, yeah, I don't really care about you living or dying, but it's so inconvenient for you to bring that stuff down with your body. Ugh.
And here I was hoping for even the slightest hint of compassion, which you almost got when he raised no further objection. And then just that like last twist of the knife. And I don't even think like that's not even a personal thing. That's just like it's all shit thing.
Yeah, it's all shit.
That's sad. Kaladin pulled the leather vest over his head and dropped it to the ground with a splash, then left the sandals in a puddle. That left him in a dirty shirt and stiff brown trousers, both taken off a dead man. Kaladin walked through the storm to the east side of the lumber yard. A low thundering rumbled from the west. The pathway down to the shattered plains was familiar to him now. He'd run this way a dozen times with the bridge crews. There wasn't a battle every day, perhaps one in every 2 or 3, and not every bridge crew had to go on every run. But many of the runs were so draining, so horrific, that they left the bridgemen stunned, almost unresponsive for the days between. Many bridgemen had trouble making decisions. The same happened to men who were shocked by battle. Oh yeah, that's PTSD.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Yeah. Kaladin felt those effects in himself. Even deciding to come to the chasm had been difficult. But the bleeding eyes of that unnamed boy haunted him. He wouldn't make himself go through something like that again. He couldn't. He reached the base of the slope, wind-driven rain pelting his face as if trying to shove him back toward the camp. As if trying to shove him back. Windspreader on his side. He fights with the wind. Like, wow. That is a specific line in there for a very specific reason.
He's fighting every element that is trying to keep him alive.
Yeah.
He goes against it.
Yep.
Oh, also just reflecting back to the fact that he can't go through this again. He can't see that again. We've just finished reading about Kaladin, just have had the question or theme brought up about caring too much. And that Kaladin does care. As much as he wanted the glory of battle and all of that, that was part of why he would be nervous and things like that. It was because he cared so much about the outcomes.
He reached the base of the slope, wind-driven rain pelting his face as if trying to shove him back toward the camp. He kept on walking up to the nearest chasm, the honor chasm, the bridgemen called it, for it was the place where they could make the one decision left to them, the honorable decision, death. They weren't natural, these chasms. This one started narrow, but as it ran toward the east, it grew wider and deeper, incredibly quickly. At only 10 feet long, the crack was already wide enough that it would be difficult to jump. A group of 6-rope ladders with wooden rungs hung here, affixed spikes in the rock, used by bridgemen sent down to salvage from corpses that had fallen into the chasms during bridge runs. Kaladin looked out over the plains. He couldn't see much through the darkness and rain. No, this place wasn't natural. The land had been broken, and now it broke the people who came to it. Kaladin walked past the ladders a little farther along the edge of the chasm. Then he sat down, legs over the side, looking down as the rain fell around him, the droplets plunging into the dark depths.
Okay, so we had... Sorry.
Little poetic.
We had... Yeah, very poetic, and the name of the chapter is Droplets. So the roll credits. And we've also got... it reminds me of the death rattle. The death rattle is talking about the broken one. The broken one is ruling Kaladin right now. He's broken. There's the poetic thing of that, yeah. And the land is broken, so we get all of these nods towards each other, the death rattle and this chapter.
Really well said. To his sides, the more adventurous Kremlings had already left their lairs, scuttling about, feeding on plants that lapped up the rainwater. Lirin had once explained that high storm rains were rich with nutrients. Storm wardens in Kholinar and Vedenar had proved that plants given storm water did better than those given lake or river water. Why was it that scientists were so excited to discover facts that farmers had known for generations and generations? Interesting. nice.
They just want to know for sure. They just want to apply
But
the
as
scientific
a
method.
yes, but as a world building thing, that's really
Mm.
neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose high storms can bring in water from places that aren't necessarily nearby.
Yeah, and there's a lot of energy in the storms. I mean, we have the
Yes.
storm light that comes from it. So, yeah, which I suppose is electricity, but it's charged.
Yeah.
Very magical.
Kaladin watched the drops of water streaking down toward oblivion in the crevice. Little suicidal jumpers, thousands upon thousands of them, millions upon millions. Who knew what awaited them in that darkness? You couldn't see it, couldn't know it until you joined them, leaping off into the void and letting the wind bear you down.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful image. I mean, beautiful and horrible and sad, but that's what these droplets are. They're little suicidal missiles, basically, just jumping. That's how many deaths are basically just happening anyway. They're just falling and falling and falling. Oh, it's beautiful.
You were right, Father. You can't stop a storm by blowing harder. You can't save men by killing others. We should all become surgeons. Every last one of us.
To talk about that, that's kind of what pacifism eventually just leads to. Like, I know that he's saying everyone needs to be a surgeon and all of that, so do good, do help wherever you can. But eventually, if you're not fighting, all you can do is die.
Yeah.
That in this situation, like he can't go and help and be a surgeon, I suppose. As much as he's saying we should all be surgeons, all of us. But at this point, it's like, yeah, pacifism, it just gets to the idea that I was talking about in the last episode of just this pacifism. Eventually, it's just death. Because, yes, you can help for as long, you can try and help, but eventually someone's going to kill you.
Yeah, pacifism only works if everyone else is a pacifist too,
yeah,
and
exactly.
That's not feasible.
Yeah, and yes, you and don't you want to stay alive to help? And what does it take to stay alive to help more people?
He was rambling, but oddly his mind felt clearer now than it had in weeks. Perhaps it was the clarity of perspective. Most men spent their entire lives wondering about the future, while his future was empty now. So he turned backward, thinking about his father, about Tien, about decisions. Once his life had seemed simple. That was before he'd lost his brother, before he'd been betrayed in Amaram's army. So his brother, is Tien his brother?
Yes, younger brother.
Okay. Was that in the last chapter?
Yep.
It was? Okay. See, I thought it was, but for some reason when I was writing the summary, I couldn't find it, so I thought I was wrong. Thank you. I guess I gaslit myself.
It was referred to, his little brother, Tien.
Cool. Would Kaladin go back to those innocent days if he could? Would he prefer to pretend everything was simple? No. He'd had no easy fall like those drops. He'd earned his scars. He'd bounced off walls, bashed his face and hands. He'd killed innocent men by accident. He'd walked beside those with hearts like blackened coals, adoring them. He'd scrambled and climbed and fallen and stumbled. And now here he was, at the end of it all, understanding so much more, but somehow feeling no wiser. He climbed to his feet on the lip of that chasm, could feel his father's disappointment looming over him like the thunderheads above.
Whoa, it's beautiful.
Why are we reading this?
It's powerful. There's this perspective of someone who's decided to end their life it's what is described. It's actually one of some of the signs people pick up is that suddenly somebody seems extremely happy and contented because they've made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't have to worry about the future anymore. God, I'm getting a bit tearful, yeah. But like they don't have to worry about the future anymore. So they kind of relax into it. But now what he's done is now looked back at his life and gone, oh, I did so much and I earned this and I did that, but I still don't understand it. So he's looking back and finding fault, looking forward and finding nothing. He just has nothing to live for. That's it. But the thing is, now we have his father's disappointment, because as much as his father is pacifist, that doesn't mean now you must lie down and die. as much as I've compared the two, that's not exactly what his father wants. His father wants him to continue to help, not to kill in order to help, but save. What question before we continue? And I'm sorry that I've it's a very emotional bit, but transformative. My question is: does Kaladin suddenly become proper pacifist?
Oh gosh, I think it depends on how he survives this, assuming he survives. If it is in such a way that teaches Kaladin that pacifism is the only way, then he becomes a pacifist. If it is in some other happenstance, or if there's some sort of doubling down, like if he is called upon to rescue someone in some way, and that's what pulls him away from the chasm, maybe not so much.
Yeah. It would have to be something really powerful where he chooses that pacifism is the way, but yeah. Let's see what he grasps onto.
Also, I think I said it in a Mistborn episode at some point, but I am very, very fond of father-son stories, and this gets me that in his last moments he's thinking about his dad and what his dad would think. That really gets to me.
It's very powerful to have that. That's what that disappointment could keep you from taking action, but it can also be something that pushes you down, because like it actually does, his disappointment looming over him, like it's looming over him, and he doesn't have wisdom. He's looked back at his life and gone, I still don't know what it was about. So it just could all feel so helpless and hopeless that you just take that step over the edge anyway, despite the disappointment, because it's just an extra pain. It's not something to think about and hang on to and go, oh, maybe I should be doing something else. It's more like, well, of course I'm disappointing my father because I'm just horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. He put one foot out over the void. Kaladin! He froze at the soft.
That might be me. There's a translucent form. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, never mind. He put one foot out over the void.
Kaladin!
He froze at the soft but piercing voice. A translucent form bobbed in the air, approaching through the weakening rain. The figure lunged forward, then sank, then surged higher again like it was bearing something heavy. Kaladin brought his foot back and held out his hand. Syl unceremoniously alighted upon it, shaped like a sky eel clutching something dark in its mouth.
Ooh.
Yay! She's back, and she's a sky eel now, but yay!
No, yeah, what is that symbolism? She's back, yay. And also she's like fought her way to him, because she was darting this and that, and that's how I'm envisioning it. And what is the symbolism? Why is she a sky eel with something dark in its mouth? Is it you?
Swimming through the rain? Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was rereading that that paragraph. She switched to the familiar form of a young woman, dress fluttering around her legs. She held in her hands a narrow, dark green leaf with a point divided in 3. Blackbane. Oh no. What if this isn't Syl? What if this is evil Syl? No.
No, it's not. Okay, so there's something dark. The sky eel, her image, she's carrying a leaf with her, right? So the sky eel was carrying a leaf as well. You can't change the form of the leaf. You can change the form around it. So that's what it was.
What is this? Kaladin asked. She looked exhausted.
These things are heavy.
She lifted the leaf.
I brought it for you.
Do you even know what you brought him? He took the leaf between 2 fingers. Blackbane. Poison. Why did you bring this to me? He said harshly.
I thought...
Syl said, shying back.
Well, you kept those other leaves so carefully. Then you lost them when you tried to help that man in the slave cages. I thought it would make you happy to have another one. Oh! He's so sick. Oh my gosh. I can't handle this.
I love Syl so much, but she has no idea what she's just done.
Yeah. But she has no idea what she's just done. She's just been so very innocent in front and come back to him. Okay. She went off tried to do something for him. She doesn't know exactly what the meaning of that is. She just saw he was happy then.
Well, yeah. I mean,
there's power in that.
We just read a Well of Ascension chapter, and we were talking about out of the mouths of babes and a childlike wonder and what have you. Oh, man. Topical. Kaladin almost laughed. She had no concept of what she'd done fetching him a leaf of one of Roshar's most deadly natural poisons because she'd wanted to make him happy. It was ridiculous and sweet.
Yes, it is. It's making you stop and think, right? Right, Kaladin? Everything seemed to go wrong when you lost that leaf,
Syl said in a soft voice.
Before that, you fought.
I failed. She cowered down, kneeling on his palm, misty skirt around her legs, drops of rainwater passing through her and rippling her form.
You don't like it then? I flew so far. I almost forgot myself, but I came back. I came back, Kaladin.
So she almost lost herself. She did come back, although you were gone for a day, which isn't all that long. I mean, I'm sure it felt like an eternity for both of them, but she still doesn't quite understand war is
But
really
it is the same day. Sorry, it is the same day that she had left.
Yes. It's like that.
So it's like a couple hours, so it's even shorter.
Yeah. But she really, even though she's been watching him fight and kill and so on, she doesn't quite seem to understand the horrors of what it is that she is seeing.
But I don't begrudge her that.
Well,
she has this innocence that also, just remember, like, how I see her is also a spirit who doesn't even know they're dead. So that they've lost certain memories, certain consciousness, certain bits of consciousness. So they're just an essence. So they can only be confused and see things very simply. Like, that made him happy. I need to get that thing, because they don't have a broader concept.
And she is that Fae spirit.
Yeah. So even if she isn't a dead person come back to life or anything, that sort of Fae spirit thing is very innocent and essency, not wholly sapient.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love her, and
I love her. I want to protect her.
Yeah, and maybe that will make Kaladin stay alive. Come on.
Why? He pled. Why do you care?
Because I do,
she said, cocking her head.
I watched you, back in that army. You'd always find the young, untrained men and protect them, even though it put you in danger. I can remember. Just barely, but I do.
I failed them. They're dead now.
They would have died more quickly without you.
So she does understand the concept of death, at least.
Yeah, she does. And, just sorry, something that I forgot to mention, just to remark on, was she almost lost herself, but she came back. Like, Kaladin has almost lost himself. We need him to come back too. Yeah, we need that. She also, there we do have, obviously we were told in the previous chapters that if she goes away, she might forget. If she leaves him, she'll forget herself. She's connected to him. So she almost forgot about everything in order to get this leap for Kaladin. She really cares about him that much. She almost died, basically, for him.
Yeah.
And they need to stay together for both of them. Yeah, to stay alive.
I failed them. They're dead now.
They would have died more quickly without you. You made it so they had a family in the army. I remember their gratitude. It's what drew me in the first place. You helped them.
No, he said, clutching the black bane in his fingers. Everything I touch withers and dies. He teetered on the ledge. Thunder rumbled in the distance.
Those men in the bridge crew,
Syl whispered.
You could help them.
Too late. He closed his eyes, thinking of the dead boy earlier in the day. It's too late. I failed. They're dead. They're all going to die, and there's no way out.
What is one more try, then?
Her voice was soft, yet somehow stronger than the storm.
What could it hurt?
He paused.
You can't fail this time, Kaladin. You've said it. They're all going to die anyway.
Ooh.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I'm sorry. It's actually quite a powerful realization that, okay, you understand that things are greater than you. Make a decision about what you're going to do with that. Your decision could be to fall over into the chasm and give up completely, or be free of the fact, be freed by the idea that you're gonna fail, and the only thing that you can do is your best.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and I love that it's coming from this very innocent creature, because it's so simple that you need that kind of that kind of simplicity in order to get this message. Oh my God, I love this so much. It's so deep.
Too late. He closed his eyes, thinking of the dead boy earlier in the day. It's too late. I failed. They're dead. They're all going to die, and there's no way out.
What is one more try, then?
Her voice was soft, yet somehow stronger than the storm.
What could it hurt?
He paused.
You can't fail this time, Kaladin. You've said it. They're all going to die anyway.
He thought of Tien and his dead eyes staring upward.
I don't know what you mean most of the time when you speak,
she said.
My mind is so cloudy, but it seems that if you're worried about hurting people, you shouldn't be afraid to help the bridgemen. What more could you do to them? One more try, Kaladin,
Syl whispered.
Please.
One more try. The men huddled in the barrack with barely a blanket to call their own, frightened of the storm, frightened of each other, frightened of what the next day would bring. One more try. He thought of himself crying at the death of a boy he hadn't known, a boy he hadn't even tried to help. One more try. I really like this repetition of one more try.
Because that's how it is. One more try, one more try, one more try. That's what you got to do every single day. Oh!
Kaladin opened his eyes. He was cold and wet, but he felt a tiny, warm candle flame of determination come alight inside him. He clenched his hand, crushing the black bane leaf inside, then dropped it over the side of the chasm. Oh no, poor Syl worked so hard to get that.
It helped, okay? Don't worry.
It was symbolic. It was the gesture.
Yes, he's throwing away the option of death. So.
Yeah. He clenched his hand, crushing the black bane leaf inside, then dropped it over the side of the chasm. He lowered the other hand, which had been holding Syl. She zipped up into the air, anxious.
Kaladin?
He stalked away from the chasm, bare feet splashing in puddles and stepping heedlessly on rockbud vines. The incline he'd come down was covered with flat, slate-like plants that had opened like books to the rain, ruffled lacy red and green leaves connecting the two halves. Life-spren. Little green blips of light brighter than Syl, but small as spores, danced among the plants, dodging raindrops. Growth!
Yes,
life!
Yes! And they're little. They're small. They're even smaller than Syl, but they're there and they're alive. Oh.
Kaladin strode up, water streaming past him in tiny rivers. At the top, he returned to the bridge yard. It was still empty, save for Gaz, who was tying a ripped tarp back into place. Kaladin had crossed most of the distance to the man before Gaz noticed him. The wiry sergeant scowled. Too cowardly to go through with it, your lordship. Well, if you think I'm giving back... He cut off with a gagging noise as Kaladin lunged forward, grabbing Gaz by the neck. Gaz lifted an arm in surprise, but Kaladin batted it away and swept the man's legs out from under him, slamming him down to the rocky ground, throwing up a splash of water. Gaz's eye opened wide with shock and pain, and he began to strangle under the pressure of Kaladin's grip on his throat. Ooh, is he gonna kill him, or...
Yes! You don't have to do the voice anymore, Dorkus. Don't worry.
The world just changed, Gaz, Kaladin said, leaning in close. I died down at that chasm. Now you've got my vengeful spirit to deal with. Badass, but a little...
Badass. But yeah, I thought it was badass. A little cringe. Maybe
Not
it's a bit
so much
too on the
cringe.
nose.
Yeah, a little over the top.
Yeah, it's a bit too noticeable. We should make that connection, not him. Maybe later on. Too soon.
Too soon. Squirming, Gaz looked about frantically for help that wasn't there. Kaladin didn't have trouble holding him down. There was one thing about running bridges. If you survived long enough, it built up the muscles. Kaladin let up slightly on Gaz's neck, allowing him a gasping breath. Then Kaladin leaned down further. We're going to start over new, you and I. Clean. And I want you to understand something from the start. I'm already dead. You can't hurt me. Understand? Gaz nodded slowly, and Kaladin gave him another breath of frigid human air. Bridge 4 is mine, Kaladin said. You can assign us tasks, but I'm bridge leader. The other one died today, so you have to pick a new leader anyway. Understand? Gaz nodded
I love this.
again. I love this too.
I love this because it's not... Okay, so earlier you were like, oh, is he going to say you're the leader of Bridge 4? This is so much better.
Kaladin just takes it.
Yes, he literally takes it by the scruff of the neck, and he's like, I am the leader now. Oh, I love it. Just one more thing. I think instead of him saying I died down at that chasm, I think if you took that completely out and left it with I'm already dead, that would have been better.
I agree.
Because we wouldn't have that line. Maybe if the line came later or something like that. Yeah, I agree with you on it's not exactly cringe, but it's just either way. Look,
I don't hate it by any means.
Yes, we get nitpicky when we're taking it into this much detail, guys.
And
I don't think we would have noticed. Yeah, and transformative, exactly.
Gaz nodded again. You learn quickly, Kaladin said, letting the man breathe freely. He stepped back, and Gaz hesitantly got to his feet. There was hatred in his eyes, but it was veiled. He seemed worried about something more than Kaladin's threats. I want to stop paying down my slave debt, Kaladin said. How much do bridgemen make? 2 clear marks a day, Gaz said, scowling at him and rubbing his neck. So a slave would make half that. 1 diamond mark, a pittance. But Kaladin would need it. He'd also need to keep Gaz in line. I'll start taking my wages, Kaladin said, but you get to keep 1 mark in 5. Gaz started, glancing at him in the dim, overcast light. For your efforts, Kaladin said. For what efforts? Uh-oh. It's going to be to, get shields and stuff, isn't it?
Well, he's going to be using his money to do that. But this is to incentivize this guy to let it happen. Because as I'm seeing this, I'm like, you're letting him live, he's going to find a way to hurt you. Yeah.
Kaladin stepped up to him. Your efforts in staying the damnation out of my way. Understood? Gaz nodded again. Kaladin walked away. He hated to waste money on a bribe, but Gaz needed a consistent, repetitive reminder of why he should avoid getting Kaladin killed. 1 mark every 5 days wasn't much of a reminder, but for a man who was willing to risk going out in the middle of a high storm to protect his spheres, it might be enough.
Clever.
Yeah. Glad it all worked out.
Perceptive, Kaladin.
Kaladin walked back to Bridge 4's small barrack, pulling open the thick wooden door. The men huddled inside just as he'd left them, but something had changed. Had they always looked that pathetic? Yeah, now that he's in charge of them, they look even worse. Yes, they had. Kaladin was the one who had changed, not they. He felt a strange dislocation, as if he'd allowed himself to forget, if only in part, the last 9 months. He reached back across time, studying the man he had been, the man who'd still fought and fought well. He couldn't be that man again. He couldn't erase the scars, but he could learn from that man, as a new squad leader learned from the victorious generals of the past. Kaladin Stormblessed was dead, but Kaladin Bridgeman... Bridgeman?
Bridgeman.
Nah, it's gotta be Bridgeman.
Bridgeman.
Kaladin Stormblessed was dead, but Kaladin Bridgeman was of the same blood. A descendant with potential. That's a cool line.
Yeah, this chapter is very cool. This is definitely honor chasm. This is what that listener was talking about.
Yeah. Kaladin walked to the first huddled figure. The man wasn't sleeping. Who could sleep through a high storm? The man cringed as Kaladin knelt beside him. What's your name? Kaladin asked, still flitting down and studying the man's face. He wouldn't be able to see her. The man was older, with drooping cheeks, brown eyes, and close-cropped white-salted hair. His beard was short, and he didn't have a slave mark. Your name? Kaladin repeated firmly. Storm off, the man said, rolling over. Kaladin hesitated, then leaned in, speaking in a low voice. Look, friend, you can either tell me your name, or I'll keep pestering you. Continue refusing, and I'll tow you out into that storm and hang you over the chasm by one leg until you tell me. The man glanced back over his shoulder. Kaladin nodded slowly, holding the man's gaze. Teft, the man finally said. My name's Teft. That wasn't so hard, Kaladin said, holding out his hand. I'm Kaladin, your bridge leader.
Oh yeah, here we go. Also, just just to remark on the look, we've seen and had described to us Kaladin's thoughts of it's not worth learning their names. They're all going to die anyway. That sort of he does still hold that belief. He knows that they're all going to die anyway, but he's approaching it differently. So here he is going and bothering to learn their names. And another thing is he's making them remember their own names. You forget your own name, you forget your... So he's bringing them back to life as well. I love it.
The man hesitated, then took Kaladin's hand, wrinkling his brow in confusion. Kaladin vaguely remembered the man. He'd been in the crew for a while, a few weeks at least. Before that, he'd been on another bridge crew. One of the punishments for bridgemen who committed camp infractions was a transfer to Bridge 4. Get some rest, Kaladin said, releasing Teft's hand. We're going to have a hard day tomorrow. How do you know? Teft asked, rubbing his bearded chin. Because we're bridgemen, Kaladin said, standing. Every day is hard. Teft hesitated, then smiled faintly. Kellic knows that's true. Kellic, that's a new name.
Mm-hmm. That's, you would expect that to be some sort of deity sort of thing, because it's like, God knows.
Maybe one of the heralds.
Yeah. And maybe Kellic is the knower of things.
Kaladin left him, moving down the line of huddled figures. He visited each man, prodding or threatening until the man gave his name. They each resisted. So great, he's learning their names.
Mm-hmm.
They each resisted. It was as if their names were the last thing they owned and wouldn't be given up cheaply, though they seemed surprised, perhaps even encouraged, that someone cared to ask. He clutched to these names, repeating each one in his head, holding them like precious gemstones. The names mattered. The men mattered. Perhaps Kaladin would die in the next bridge run, or perhaps he would break under the strain and give Amaram one final victory. But as he settled down on the ground to plan, he felt that tiny warmth burning steadily within him. It was the warmth of decisions made and purpose seized. It was responsibility. Yeah, read Man's Search for Meaning. Good book. Syl alighted on his leg as he sat, whispering the names of the men to himself. She looked encouraged, bright, happy. He didn't feel any of that. He felt grim, tired, and wet. But he wrapped himself in the responsibility he had taken, the responsibility for these men. He held to it like a climber clung to his last handhold as he dangled from a cliffside. He would find a way to protect them. The end of part 1.
Yeah.
Woo.
This is great. This actually, I don't know if you want to keep this in here, but we are watching From, the TV show, and in there is a guy that, well, basically they're also, one of the themes is just being in damnation. They're in a kind of purgatory. They're stuck in this place. And one of the enemies of one of the themes that is brought up is hope is what actually makes them worse. You know, having hope is something that makes it being in this torturous. But this guy has taken responsibility for the people in this town, and that is part of his purpose. So I'm sorry, that just reached out to me even more because of watching From.
Nice.
I love that line about him wrapping himself in the responsibility. It's so cool.
Yeah. I love that he has purpose again. It was so beautifully written. It really got to the very, very edge, to the very end, before he had to pull himself out of it. Still is amazing. Best character ever.
Dorkus, could it be that with great responsibility comes great power?
Something like that.
That's what I mean by courtesy laugh, guys. But thank you. Yeah.
I don't know what to say. You've called me out.
You know what? You have to do something. I mean, otherwise we'd have dead air. So thank you.
Now I'm self-conscious about my laughs.
Oh, don't be.
Sometimes they are genuine and you don't think they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just really awkward and in my own body. And I'm like, is this how to laugh? I'm going to laugh now because I want to laugh now.
What do I do with my hands?
Exactly.
Yeah, beautifully written chapter. I'm so glad this was a blind. This was a good one to have blind. I think.
Yeah, I've really noticed it's always the last chapter in a section.
Part. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think our next blind for Ascension is also the last in a section. I think it's 27. I'll have to double check that.
But yeah, this is awesome. Hey, I thought this would come at a later stage. I thought we would have a little bit more before this happened, but I'm very happy that it happened now.
Yeah, I agree. It was getting very, very depressing reading his chapters. So
yeah, we get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for suggesting the blind. If anyone has other suggestions, I don't want to do them super frequently for this series because I like the shorter form for it, but once in a while is fine. So please recommend them and we'll see spatially how frequently they come up.
And you know what? Speaking of, if you guys want to discuss what you're going to recommend, join the Discord, the No One Asked You Discord. There is a section where you can, I don't know, slander us because we're not looking.
Yes, join the Discord. There is a specific spoiler section and a specific non-spoiler section, and we've got a fun little group that's growing there, in addition to over here on this channel. So thank you all for being a part of the No One Asked You community, where I'm officially asking you to be a part. But also subscribe to That Darn Kitty, because she's got a wonderful channel where she does debate diagrams and panel shows and all kinds of things.
Lots of random stuff. But Dorkus does feature on it. So join us on Thursdays for Thinks.
Yes, about things. Mm-hmm. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you for the interlude chapisode next week. Okay, thanks, Movie.